Let's go ahead and get started. Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you so much for joining us today. We're at the top of the hour, so let's get started. My name is Lindsay Culberth, and I'm the Director of Marketing here at Kirkpatrick Price and your moderator for today's session. I would like to welcome everyone to the webinar, 10 Critical Things to Consider When Choosing a Compliance Platform. Just a few housekeeping items before we get started. All attendees will be muted throughout the session. If you do have a question, you can add those to the questions box that we'll moderate throughout, or you can also send an email to hello@kirkpatrickprice.com and we'll be sure to respond to you. Also, if you would like CPE credit for this session, you can send an email to that address as well, and we'll happily send you a CPE certificate. As a reminder, this session is being recorded and attendees will receive a link in your inbox tomorrow with the slides and the recording. I would like to introduce our speaker for today. As founder and president of Kirkpatrick Price, Joseph Kirkpatrick has spent nearly 2 decades developing the firm's trailblazing initiatives in information security, audit delivery, and ethical hacking. Joseph enjoys educating, empowering, and inspiring clients by navigating them through the complex maze of compliance and regulatory requirements. Joseph is a CPA with over 25 years experience in information technology. He holds CISSP, CGEIT, CISA, CRISC, and QSA certifications, specializing in data security, cybersecurity, IT governance, and regulatory compliance. At Kirkpatrick Price, we know that audits are hard and choosing the right tool can be overwhelming. We want to make sure you feel prepared and confident as you decide what compliance tool is best for your organization. And with that, I'm going to pass things over to Joseph, who knows a thing or two about audits and compliance tools, and I'll let him share his knowledge with you. Welcome to the webinar, Joseph.
Yeah, thank you. When I first started Kirkpatrick Price, one of the very first things that I noticed was when I would send out the list of things that I wanted the client to do, they would never send it back to me. I would send them a short list, I would send them a long list. I tried so many different things, and people would just sit on it. And I learned that it was usually because of fear. They were usually, working behind the scenes to get all the information just right before they showed it to the auditor. And they just really hesitated in giving a response back. And it was this never-ending goalpost of everything needs to be right before we send it. But the irony of that is you couldn't know if it was right until the auditor looked at it. And so we were just always in this spiral of not being able to get the information. And so finally, I was like, we need to make a tool that will make this process easier. And so over the last 19 years that I've been with Kirkpatrick Price, we have seen all of the methods. We've seen all the ways that people think about this and the way they handle it. And in the last 2 years, the market has really exploded with lots of different tools that are available. There are so many more choices now at our disposal to conduct our audits and bring the best experience possible to the client. And so that choice can be very hard. It can be very overwhelming with so many different ways to conduct an audit today. And so we want to give you a few things to think about today, because we have observed this for the last 19 years and we have worked with a lot of different methods. We've issued over 10,000 audit reports and we're almost at 20,000. And so we're very experienced in working these projects through in different ways. And we want to share some of our insight around how tools that are out there can make your life easier. And making that choice can feel very difficult. Which one is the best one? Which one is in this for the long run? Which one can actually serve the way our team is constructed? And so we just want to give you those things to think about. Where we've been as an organization over the past 19 years is that there weren't a lot of tools when we first started issuing audit opinions. In 2005, which was our first year in existence, a lot of the work was done by internal audits. That was the mature part of this industry at the time. You had internal audit personnel putting together control descriptions and testing plans and organizing audit data behind the scenes. There was a very small percentage of external audits being conducted in 2005, as opposed to today. The market has really matured over the last 20 years. A lot more people do external audits. They hire an external auditor to come in. And so it's a very different landscape today than where we originally started from in 2005. Archer was really the tool. There was a primary tool that you heard over and over again. Oh, we use Archer. And it was really geared more towards that internal audit approach. It was a tool that allowed you to document all of your work papers and keep all of your audit evidence together. And that was just kind of the expected answer that you heard back in 2005 when you were like, which audit platform are you utilizing? Or the question was, are you using one? Because many times the answer was no. But when they did say yes, it was Archer. And no offense to Archer, but a lot of people had it, but they weren't using it because they felt overwhelmed by it. It had too many features. It was hard to maintain. We would just get a lot of that feedback from people. And so as a result, people just still, defaulted to spreadsheets. Well, we're going to have spreadsheets to manage this process, and we're going to email our things around to all the different people who are involved, and we're going to keep this spreadsheet up to date. And that's really where this whole industry started. And so our role in this market happened in 2006. After a year of experiencing that, I couldn't take it anymore. And so I was like, we've got to get this spreadsheet into some type of an online experience for people. Strictly, it was selfish on my part. I just wanted visibility into what the clients were doing. And so we took our spreadsheet that we were sending out to our clients and we put it online so that if somebody answered one question, I would be able to see the answer to the one question, and then I had something to work on instead of sitting and waiting for the whole thing to be completed. And this status bar that I'm showing on the screen was really the main concept behind the online audit manager, which is what we introduced to the market. It allowed people to see exactly where they were. Had they answered it yet? If not, it's still unanswered. Had they answered it and it's waiting on the auditor, well, that's awaiting auditor review. Had the auditor reviewed it and marked it as pending or pending on-site, well, that put it back, on the client to know to expect something. Or are we completely done? That's accepted. That's green. And the green became a very psychological effect, not only for our audit team, but also for the client. When we saw that bar turn more and more green throughout the engagement, and ultimately when it hit 100%, people would celebrate it. People would smile, people would yell, people would clap, people would cry. There were a range of emotions around moving everything from unanswered to accepted. And the audit process was in desperate need for this when this was first introduced, because people wanted transparency. They wanted to know exactly where they were in the process. And the reason spreadsheets didn't work was because you didn't have that transparency. You didn't know if you were finished or not. More questions would come in later after you submitted this spreadsheet. And so our clients, as they used this platform with us, they wanted to be able to assign things out to different roles on the team. They wanted to see that status in real time, to know exactly where they were at that given moment. They wanted all the audit documentation stored in one central one place, so that the control owner knew exactly what they had to do to satisfy the auditor. And so it's been a great ride with the online audit manager and bringing this solution to the market. But the problem with this wasn't a tool that was available commercially. It wasn't available for people to use. You had to be a KirkpatrickPrice client in order to benefit from this online experience using the online audit manager. And so it was hidden. It was the best kept secret in the compliance audit space. And so now there are lots of solutions that allow you to work in an online fashion, lots of different experiences that are available from lots of different providers. And so we want to present today the 10 critical decision factors, 10 really important things to know about your needs to help you determine if the solution that you're looking at is the best one for you. And we're going to start off, first of all, with probably the thing that gets the most attention these days, and that is integrations and automated evidence gathering. Again, when we started many years ago, no one was in the cloud. Everyone had local client server environments. They had systems in a data center, and it was reasonable to gather evidence once a year. No one would accuse you of being negligent in checking your configuration once a year. But now, with the cloud technologies that are available to us all around, that's not reasonable anymore. Checking whether or not you have two-factor authentication enabled, you're negligent if you're only checking that once a year, because you have the ability within minutes to verify whether or not multi-factor is enabled, and the cost of doing that is next to nothing. And so it's reasonable now to be able to continuously check those kinds of things, and you do that with integrations. You do that through automated evidence collection, and that's just one example of something that can be integrated and gathered in an automated fashion. But the critical decision factor about this is you don't just need a tool that can integrate some things and automate some things. Does the tool that you're looking at take into account the scope of what we're auditing? And I see a lot of people that, because of integrations being so readily available and easy to set up and things like that, people try to make the audit only about the integrations. Well, we have our user list, we have our configurations, we have our documentation from our background checks, we have our updated policies and procedures. You have everything you need, right? But there are more things in scope for your compliance audits. It doesn't matter if you're talking about the scope of your HIPAA compliance program or your PCI compliance program or your information security management system using the ISO 27001 framework, or whether we're talking about the control environment for your SOC 1 engagement or the control environment for your SOC 2 engagement. There is a scope that involves people, processes, and technologies. And so the platform that you're looking for to make your life easier, if it is trying to boil things down into automation and it's forgetting the things that have to be demonstrated and observed and discussed with the control owners in those areas that can't be integrated, then continue to look for a tool that considers all of the scope. Can we gather all of the evidence that is needed to support this audit engagement that we're doing? There are going to be conversations had with executives about the tone from the top and the compliance environment that has been put into place. I'll use multi-factor again as an example. We can automatically collect whether or not multi-factor is enabled or not, but the conversation about where it should be enabled and where it isn't enabled and what your processes are when you have to reset that, or when you have to use a different technology in order to access an environment. Like, those are things that are part of your scope that have to be evaluated, that the automated evidence supports, but you still have to be able to document those other things for this larger part of scope. We've been in so many audits where we see the evidence that says multi-factor is enabled, but through conversations and observations and testing that auditors are trained to do, when you sample things and you look at things from different angles, you realize that the development team is accessing the production environment or the dev environment for that matter over SSH that does not have multi-factor, and the automated evidence didn't include that. And so you wouldn't have discovered that if it had not been for this larger scope that you have to consider. And so keep that in mind when you're thinking about integrations and automated evidence. Number two is assigning compliance responsibilities. There are still a lot of tools that are really still just the spreadsheet online. And you hear a lot of negative comments sometimes about a checklist audit or a checkbox audit. I see a lot of people speaking in a derogatory manner about that approach, and I feel the same way. You know, I don't want any of our clients to go through a checklist audit. You miss things, you don't consider the big picture, you don't understand the client's purpose and objectives when they're doing this audit. And so nobody wants to go through a checklist, just check the box to satisfy the engagement. But that's what a lot of the tools are when you look at what they're offering. They've taken a list of requirements and they've put it into an online format. And you need more than that. You need more than that from your compliance tool. Can you take all the requirements and assign them out to the people who have the unique roles and responsibilities? Can HR work on HR things? Can IT work on IT things? Can somebody who is involved in governance work on the things that are applicable to their role? Are there these ways to collaborate together? Because when it comes to going through an audit and making it worthwhile and not so overwhelming, you want to have this psychological benefit of eating the elephant one bite at a time. Taking something that's overwhelming and it seems insurmountable and working together as a team. Community is the answer to really having a successful audit engagement, and a tool that can help you involve other people and share the load and provide communication between all of the people that are on the team is really, really important. How many times have we bought a tool and it's let us down? I know that I have bought dozens of tools over the years, and I was disappointed to learn that the tool requires me to do some work. The tool isn't going to benefit me until I sit down and put quality information into the tool. I think about log management solutions. That's always been one of the ones. You buy these log management solutions with all these promises and hopes for simplicity, but you've got to sit down and determine your inventory and your systems that you want to log. What do you want to log? How do you want to be alerted? Who's going to be alerted? We were working with a client recently who was using one of the newer compliance platforms, and the compliance platform was saying, check the box, alerts are enabled. But during the audit, we discovered that the alerts weren't going to anyone. They were on, but they weren't being delivered to someone who was reviewing them and responding. And that's an operative part of alerts. And so, picking a tool that will work very well with you to assign those things out and ensure that the proper things are being done with the evidence and the settings that are in the tool. That's the really difficult part sometimes in setting up a new tool. This next one is something that's near and dear to my heart because I hire experts here at Kirkpatrick Price. I learned very early on, even before I started this company, that the difference is not the tool, but it's the expert who is working and talking directly to the client. Helping people understand what the evidence means, helping people understand how they can operate a control in a more effective manner, helping people find solutions to problems that they're encountering when they're facing these security and compliance challenges. And so I want to have an expert who's connected with someone. And a lot of the compliance tools that you'll find out there either don't connect you with anyone, or they're giving the work to like an account manager, someone who's never performed an audit, somebody who's never sat in your seat and operated the type of IT controls that you are operating. And so can you get to an expert? Can you connect with someone who really cares as much about these issues as you do? And those are compliance professionals. Those are security professionals. Those are people who have pursued certification and they've practiced. This is their career. This is what they enjoy doing. And so getting that connection with someone is really, really important. The problem is there are not enough experts out there. The cybersecurity field has so many needs. I'm overwhelmed because of the number of breaches and issues that we've had to deal with lately from the different tools that we use and some of the big source code breaches that have occurred that concern us and make us think about, okay, how do we protect ourselves from this source code that got stolen from this company or that company? And there just aren't enough experts available. And so a lot of that work is being pushed to people who aren't qualified. They don't have that background. We took over a PCI audit for a company that they had done one the year before, and I was looking at the audit, and it just was not a quality audit. And I looked at the background of the person who did the audit engagement, and they were not with that firm anymore, and they were working in a bar. And that's the type of thing that's happening today, is we're pushing this work to people who don't have the background to really bring that expertise. And so look for a tool that brings that live connection, can actually connect you with someone who cares. This is related to the same thing. One firm, you can buy a tool from a software company, but then who is it that's doing the audit? Who is it that will actually be reviewing the evidence and actually issuing the report and signing off on the evidence that they've looked at? Will you have to manage multiple relationships? Will you have to have your NDA and your service agreement with the software platform and manage a relationship with a partner who is your audit firm? Will misunderstandings happen because this audit firm is using multiple of the tools that are out there today, and so they're having to jump from one system to another system, and oh yeah, we work on it this way with this platform, this way in the other platform. Misunderstandings occur. Different interpretations occur when a tool does things one way, but the audit firm maybe looks at it a little bit different way and wants to ask for some different evidence than maybe what the tool is giving them. And so this leads to inconsistent results when you have that unfamiliarity between the tools and the audit firms, and having to engage multiple people in order to work through your compliance engagement. It's something to consider exactly how many people are going to be involved along the way. One of the cautionary tales that I want to give you is to not exclude the audit firm from this conversation. A lot of people are moving to the conversation with the tool, the platform, and are deferring the conversation about, well, who's the audit firm that we're going to work with to later. And that's the most important aspect. Who is going to look at the evidence? Who is going to test the evidence? Who is going to issue the opinion? We had one appointment where we were brought in from one of the compliance platforms out there, and they told us before the call, this customer does not want to talk to the auditor. They only want to use the tool, and they don't want to have a conversation with the auditor. And you should be able to get all the information that you need out of the tool. And so we had a conversation with that client, and he was adamant that any direct communication with the audit firm was antiquated and was not leveraging modern technology. But when you are a licensed firm who's issuing an opinion on the operating effectiveness of the controls that the company has put into place, there does need to be a very close relationship there with the firm that you've hired. And those conversations do need to happen in order to really have a quality job on your audit, and to have a third party's name on the audit report that's going to come out of it. So don't exclude the audit firm from that conversation. This all goes together, the tool, the audit firm, and you as a client. Number 5 is self-service. Can you work at your own pace as you get ready for your audit? I've found over the years that this is what a lot of people are really, really wanting. You know, they want the control of preparing. They want to feel prepared. They want to know the answers, you know, that are going to be on the test, and so they want that preliminary work to be available so that they can get in and kind of explore and, you know, do some pre-work ahead. Internal management of an audit process is really important. I've noticed that people feel more confident when they've maintained their evidence over the year, you know, behind them leading up to the audit. And so, okay, we've got all of our documentation in order. We've got all of our control descriptions in order. We've completed all of our tasks that we were expected to complete. And so the self-service functionality is one of the really nice things about the tools that are on the market now, because you know, you don't have to wait to that once a year thing, as I referenced before. Like you shouldn't just do a once a year thing now when it comes to security and compliance. It's so important that you need to have an internal process that keeps all this information relevant and updated so that you're ready at any time if a client should ask to inspect something or you're having an external audit come in. Another thing that's really important is educational resources. Are you selecting a tool that is just collecting evidence and documentation, or is it a tool that's trying to prepare you for what's coming? ISO 27001 has been updated. PCI has been updated. The environment is moving so fast, you always have to be ready for the next thing. How are these emerging technologies going to affect our security and our compliance? How can we stay ahead of the curve so that we're not caught off guard with some issue that can affect our compliance status? And so finding a tool that offers those educational resources so that you'll be prepared and it will empower you throughout the audit process, so that the audit isn't just a piece of paper for you, but it's actually a learning experience. It's a growing experience. An audit should be thorough. An audit should be hard because it's actually helping you to grow and get stronger as an organization. And that's what education is all about. The other thing I'm noticing in the tool landscape that I think is an important decision point is, what mapping do you need? I was in an appointment the other day where the client is doing SOC 1 and SOC 2 right now, but they were like, you know, we're doing a lot more government work, and we are expecting a client to ask us about FedRAMP in the not too distant future. Or, you know, somebody is maybe concerned about a different framework down the road, but they aren't dealing with it right now. And so can the tool support your unique engagement? Like, what's going on with you? Because you do have multiple requirements. You do have future requirements that you are concerned about. And a lot of the tools on the market that are new haven't taken into account those new frameworks yet. And as a result, they don't have the experience of mapping those frameworks together. There are some things that are easily mapped, but there are other things between frameworks that are hard to map. And it really does take that expert to help you figure out how to cross-pollinate some of your practices to achieve multiple compliance objectives. And so this is a really, really important question to ask any tool that you're considering about how they are doing this functionally, but also what they're preparing for. And if you have custom needs, if you have custom controls, if you have unique controls and issues as everyone does, how do you support that? And how do you allow us to account for these different controls that are unique to our people and our processes and our technologies that we have here in our environments? And so keep that in mind as well. I do want to say one more thing about that that just entered my mind, and that is I'm seeing a real push towards boilerplate language that I always think is bad. I think custom is, you know, the antithesis of boilerplate, right? And so more and more, I'm seeing people trying to automate their audit. Well, we just want to just take the defaults of what the tool is giving us, but that's boilerplate. Boilerplate control descriptions. And so your audit will have the same exact description of this control that someone else will have. And I've heard people say that that's a good thing. Standardization, efficiency. Why recreate the wheel? Just use the same description amongst this company and that company. The reason I think that's bad is because that's just an audit in a box. This is an opportunity for you to tell your story to your clients. You know, what is unique about your environment? What is the advantage of the way you operate your controls? Because, as I said, we've issued over 10,000 audit reports in our existence, and I can confidently tell you there is no similarity from one company to another. There's always a difference between companies. The people are different, the service is different, the technology is different, and we shouldn't boil it down to just default language. You should spend time thinking about what it is you want to tell your clients about you, because you are unique. All right, number 8 is multiple frameworks. How seamlessly do these frameworks map together? One of the things that you should ask for in a demo when you're considering the tool is, let me see all the tasks and evidence and information that we load in. Let me see it from this view, from, you know, ISO. Let me see it from another view, SOC 2. See if that functionality is there, because you will get a knock on the door. This just happened the other day. A client of ours did a GDPR audit, and they finished it at the end of the year. The calendar turned. Another client came back to them and said, hey, we want you to do this Microsoft data protection program, which was specifically on the privacy side. And they had just done all this work for GDPR, and they were looking at things in the GDPR framework view. And so it was really important for them to be able to now look at it through the Microsoft lens. What's different between this framework and that? Don't accept a solution that just says that it's all the same, because it's not. There are nuanced differences from framework to framework. And so does the platform support that and help you seamlessly address those differences, rather than taking the approach of, oh, it's all the same. Number 9 is, I think, something really important, and this is something obviously we believe in because we are a licensed firm. And I think a critical decision point is, who built this platform and why did they build it? Was this a software company who built the platform because they want to generate software, you know, that's commercially profitable and popular and, you know, filling a need in the market? Those are valuable reasons to do it. But it is a very different thing when a product is built by a licensed firm who really cares about the work that's going into it. They know the requirements because they are under the requirements of the PCAOB and the state boards that govern these audits that are performed. Was it built by a security professional, someone who holds security certification, someone who has run security programs and understands what vendors are required to do when it comes to different regulatory issues that they fall under? And so a lot of the tools that are out there today are built overseas. And so now the question enters in, what jurisdictional requirement applies to my governance of this software tool that I'm about to buy? Am I going to expect this provider to prove to me who has access to the environment? Am I going to require them to abide by US law and regulations? Am I going to have a contract that specifies that they comply with that? Or am I going to utilize a platform that's been built by a licensed firm who is obligated to comply with these kinds of expectations when it comes to confidentiality and security and internal control. It's a big difference that I can't emphasize enough. We recently were auditing a platform where the audit report for the platform didn't specify any controls around the remote access for developers. And upon further investigation, we became aware that the developers were in China, and we asked for evidence about that because they said no, they're not in China. And so the accounts were in Azure Active Directory, but a simple cross-referencing of the people's names and roles surfaced that they physically were in China. And so which jurisdictional requirement am I concerned about with that organization? There was another compliance platform that went out of business recently, and the day they went out of business, the tool was not available anymore. And the clients who had used that platform did not have access to the data. They could not retrieve the data. The company was gone. When you are a licensed CPA firm, you're not allowed to do that. If you go out of business, or if you're merging or being acquired by someone, or you're retiring, there's a statutory requirement to ensure that the clients have access to their data and the information that is necessary for them to continue on with their audit and go to a different audit firm or what have you. And so a very important point to consider: who built it and why did they build it? Or was it someone who built it because they are dealing with security at their core, or is it someone who is really coming at it more from a commercial vantage point? And so think very carefully about number 9 there. And then the last one is the cost. The platform cost is something that everybody's going to consider. And when a couple of years ago, when all the platforms really started appearing, I thought they were very inexpensive. They were very financially viable. And I'm hearing now that some of the investment that was required, to build the tool, like it's turning into the phase now for this market that, okay, there are going to be costs associated with using the platform. It's time to pay the investors back. And so these costs are changing pretty frequently from what I'm seeing in the market right now. And so there will be fees for, the number of employees that you have, the number of frameworks that you're working in, the number of products that you have. I was talking to a client the other day who had 4 different product lines. And so they were going to have to buy a license for their compliance platform to support 4 different, and it started getting expensive, doing that. And so this is something to consider when you're evaluating your platform. And this is something I took from the Pure Cyber 100 report. They published this on November 2nd, and they were saying this was the top investment in cybersecurity in the last 2 years, so 2021 and 2022. And I just want to show you like what's happening in the market. There's a lot of money in the market. This list of 100 was cybersecurity companies. It was 100 companies that all have received over $100 million in the last 2 years. And so cybersecurity is probably, the top industry that has received investment in the last 2 years. And I pulled out 4 of the cybersecurity companies that are really in this compliance platform space who received over $100 million in the last 2 years. And the numbers are staggering. And so what does this mean? It means that there's going to be a lot more attention placed on this market. There's going to be a lot more development. There's going to be a lot more innovation. There's going to be a lot more marketing. There's going to be a lot more money, to be spent in this market. And so the pricing and the fee structure is going to be changing. So just be aware of this, that this is what's happening behind the scenes with all the money flowing. And as you choose your audit platform, this is one of the 10 factors that you should consider. And so what I want to do for the remainder of our time here today is show you the online audit manager. This is the tool that has matured over the years. It's been around for the last 18 years, and it's gone through many iterations to provide features and benefits to people who are going through different compliance audits. And we really feel that with so many tools that are out there today, being so new in the market, they're over-promising and under-delivering. And finding a tool that can connect you with an expert is what will really help you get the most out of your audits. And so I want to take a few minutes just walking you through some of our capabilities with the online audit manager so that you can see a benchmark, so that you can have something to compare against as you are considering the different tools that are out there. And so I'm just going to jump over to the dashboard here. This is the famous project overview dashboard that I shared earlier that gives people a lot of comfort when they go through their audit engagement. They know that they start unanswered, and so seeing that finish line, seeing everything turn green by turning to accepted, that's what people want. But this real-time access to unanswered status, auditor review status, pending status, and accepted status is what brings that assurance to you of exactly where you are. Today, a client mentioned that, yeah, I'm nervous about what I don't know. I'm afraid that this audit is going to expose some things that we're not prepared for. And one of our experts was on that call today and said the exact right thing. You know, the discovery of the findings is what is actually going to reduce that stress for you and is actually going to bring that assurance to you, because right now you don't know what you don't know. But once you see the things turn red, turn into pending, now you'll know what you have to work on. And so that's why this project overview bar provides a lot of comfort and assurance to people, because it's valuable to know what the findings are. They filter by the pending status so that they can work on those things that are their responsibility. So as things move from unanswered to auditor review, and ultimately some of it lands up in the pending status, you know what you need to work on. And again, dividing and conquering is the name of the game, allowing people to do those different things. Eating the elephant one bite at a time is why we break things up according to topic. We have found that when somebody comes in and they see, oh my goodness, there's 20 topics here, I've got to answer questions about regulatory compliance and application development and human resources and network monitoring. Sometimes people avoid that. They avoid the stress of doing that. But when you assign questions to your team members, and when you divide this up and say, okay, who on my team is best suited to address the questions around risk assessment? Who on my team is best suited to answer about encryption and key management and those other data security topics? Who on my team is best suited to answer questions about vulnerability management? Once you do that, those people come in and they only see the topics that are assigned to them. And so rather than seeing 20 things, okay, I'm going to work on 2 things or 3 things. And it provides that momentum when people see that bar move and they see that, okay, I've only been given my part of it and I'm collaborating with my team, and this person over here has 4 things that are, 4 topics that are assigned to them. I've only got 2. I'm going to do my part while they do that. And sometimes we get some fun competition stuff going where people want to, they don't want to be the last one to finish their topics. And so it really builds momentum and excitement around a topic that, you don't hear those terms about very often. And so that's what the strategy is behind dividing things up into the different topics so that you can learn about them. And speaking of learning, as I mentioned before about some of the decision points, as you come into a topic, and this is the risk assessment topic, where we are asking some questions that need to be answered, we're giving some tasks that need to be completed, such as a sample of any incidents that occurred during the period involving fraud, which is a requirement for a SOC 2 risk assessment criteria, documents that we're asking to be uploaded and reviewed by the auditor. You have corresponding educational resources, and these can be videos, these can be documentation, textual things, links to third-party resources. And so a lot of times people want to know what is going to be on the test, and these are our auditors as well as other respected third parties who are subject matter experts in these 20 different topics that you can learn from in the resources. And as you're struggling with maybe what I should upload here or what I should type as an answer, these resources are there to guide you and provide you some help along the way. I guess I'll just mention on that point, a related point is connecting with an expert. What if I want to talk to one of these people right now? What if I've got a question right now? I'm working in this audit platform and I don't want to wait until they respond to me. I don't want to wait until tomorrow. I dedicated my afternoon to work on my topic and get some help. Well, there's a speak to an expert right here that will take you to a screen where you can log in, and I can get that expert to talk to me. And there's a video. It's a one-way video so that you don't have to have your video on. You see the expert and you can talk to them and get some assistance with your question in the moment. Having that live interaction is really, really critical. I mentioned about some of the decision points around mapping, and this issue around risk assessment, the different questions and tasks and documents allow you to see exactly how they map to other things. You have that here in each question or task or document. You can also filter according to the different criteria numbers for the particular framework. And so if you're looking at the SOC 2 framework, if you're looking at ISO, if you're looking at PCI, you can filter by, I should say group, by the exact framework number so that now you can see which things relate to that particular criteria. And so if you come into a view that groups it by the particular framework, then you can see the tasks that relate to that. It's just a different way of showing the same information. The previous way was topical. This way is by the unique framework. And so that's helpful for companies who organize their documentation according to a framework. We run into a lot of organizations who are doing a SOC 2, but they organize their evidence and their data according to NIST. Or we have people who are going through an ISO 27001 certification, and so they've kind of built their information security management system around the ISO framework, and so they're used to seeing things in that nomenclature and that order, but now they're going through HIPAA engagement. And so that's the purpose of toggling between a topical view and a framework view, because you might want to see it in a different order so that you can organize your data according to the method that is most comfortable to you. And that's where the mappings come in, so that you know exactly how this one thing maps to multiple of the frameworks that are out there. One thing I was going to say about that, to just make sure everybody understands the concept behind mapping in a compliance tool. Tools that do implement this mapping capability, the whole concept is answer the question one time, upload the evidence one time. Because if your unique usernames apply to multiple controls and multiple criteria, and they do, you don't want to have to do that over and over again. And so a mapping functionality should allow you to provide that evidence once And then when you have the view of looking at where that evidence falls in the framework, it might show up multiple times, but you only did it one time. And that's what will save you a lot of time and effort when you are going through that. The other thing is integrations when it comes to automating some of these things. So for example, let me just go to something like logical access. And I'll go to some of the tasks in logical access. You know, this is a topic that gets really you know, detailed. This is one of the ones that can be labeled as overwhelming because there's a lot of things to do when it comes to logical access. There's policies and procedures around how you structure your groups and your users. There's multi-factor authentication. There's the way you manage passwords. There's processes that you use to reset passwords. There's remote technologies that you're utilizing to remotely access your environment. There is the way that you log into systems that aren't governed from your access control system, like Active Directory or something like that, you know, taking into account you know, devices and appliances and other third-party cloud environments that don't have the same governance from Active Directory or something like that. And so there's just a lot of things to do in this. And so the place where integrations come in is automatically pulling that evidence in so that you don't have to manually update those things all the time. And so connecting your compliance platform with the systems that you're utilizing, Azure Active Directory for all of your users, groups, and domain policies, you know, multi-factor authentication solutions, your cloud environment when it comes to Azure and AWS and Google Cloud and all those kinds of things. That's how you want to leverage integrations to automatically turn these things from unanswered into awaiting auditor review. It's the audit review that is the important part of this audit that you're going through. It's not simply just automatically getting an answer in there. It's now automating that so that it saves you some steps in getting that evidence in front of the auditor so that the auditor now can do what they need to do in terms of observing what you're doing, asking some questions to get some clarity and validation, and then coming to a place of reasonable assurance where we're issuing a report now validating that those things are in place. And so those are some of the things that I wanted to walk you through, just so you could have a visual of what this compliance platform looks like. We've sat in your seat. We've gone through many audits ourselves in the roles that we worked in prior to Kirkpatrick Price. We have audited thousands of companies against the various frameworks that are out there and have encountered many situations and many problems that people are trying to solve. You know, the struggle of not being able to get evidence from this corporate office or from this sister company or from this third party who is instrumental. And so we can help you find solutions to those challenges. We can help you leverage the technology that your cloud provider provides, that a third-party tool provides, that your own tools that you already have in place can do to help you surface some of this evidence. Talk to us, use us here at Kirkpatrick Price to guide you along this journey, because we do want to share that experience with you. And so we want to invite you to create a free account with the Online Audit Manager so that you can be introduced to what it's like to use a compliance platform like this. We would like for you to visit our website, KirkpatrickPrice.com, and the subdirectory is online-audit-manager. You'll get an email about this presentation today for being registered with it, and you'll be able to easily click on that link and create an account with the Online Audit Manager. And we would love to support you as you use it and see how it might benefit you. If you have any questions or need any help with this particular thing, just email us at hello@KirkpatrickPrice.com. And with all of the changes that have happened in the market when it comes to security and compliance, and with the dozens of tools that are now available that are serving this market, we are going to be talking a lot about this in 2023. So follow us not only our website by registering for our updates there, but also on LinkedIn and Twitter and YouTube, because we're going to be providing a lot of resources and educational things in order to help you make these decisions and deal with your security and compliance challenges in the best way. And so I know we've only got a few minutes left, but I've covered all my things there. Lindsay, was there anything else that you wanted me to cover today, or did you have any questions that you wanted to present to me?
I've not seen any questions come in, but if anyone has any after the fact, please send an email to hello@KirkpatrickPrice.com, or if you have a request for a CPE credit, and we will be sure to follow up with you very quickly. Thanks everyone for joining today.
Thank you.